I'm going to give you 3 reasons why Muslim men and women should spend more time together. And I'm going to tell you the best way to do that. I am firmly anti-establishment. I am really anti-authoritarian, always have been, and that's actually one of the reasons that I chose to be Muslim. It has always stood in opposition to the status quo in every time, in every place. But for all of my bluster, I tend to be religiously conservative. I screw up a lot. I don't always do the right thing, but the intent is to be observant in the best way that I know how, in every moment. I'm a married man. I don't drink alcohol. I hand slaughter my own meats. Out here smoking a whole chicken, by the way. I don't touch women that I'm not related to. No handshakes, no hugs, no nothing. But I'm not a religious scholar. I'm not here to teach anybody anything. My passion is getting Muslims outside. And I do that because that's what God invites us to time and time again in our primary text, the Quran. And academic Islam has chosen to ignore that invitation completely. Dustin Tribe has been facilitating outdoor adventures for the Muslim community since 2012. And in all the years of doing that work, we are very familiar with how Muslim men and women are really uncomfortable with even the idea of being outdoors together. Now, we've run trips just for men and just for women, and there is lots of good that comes out of those exclusively gendered spaces. But you know what they're missing? Perspective, balance, the complementarity of male and female energies in communion together. That's significant because gendered spaces do offer validation and commiseration, but they can also be extremely polarizing. And that brings us to the first reason that Muslim men and women need to spend more time together. We hardly recognize one another. That's my dog barking. There is actual fear of the other, and fear is a byproduct of ignorance. We instinctively fill our knowledge gaps with nightmare fuel. That's just Darwinian self-preservation stuff. But this gets exploited, specifically by corporate oligarchs through pornography and polarizing social media algorithms. Because trust and respect are fundamental human needs. You cannot have a functional society without them. You cannot identify, let alone advocate for a common good unless you first have trust and respect in one another. But if you can erode that, replace trust and respect with fear, then you can control the narrative about what is good. And you can shape that good to benefit you specifically. You can market that, sell that, hook people on it, siphon away their wealth, their values, their identity, all because people no longer trust and respect one another. We end up deferring to so-called authority figures, and establishment Islam plays into that, by the way. Always talking about how men and women are at risk when in each other's company, how we need to stay away from one another lest things become violent or abusive or super sexy. Well, this stuff, it gets internalized and we become afraid of each other, or at the very least, when we are compelled to be in one another's company, it's just super awkward. Which brings us to the next reason that men and women need to spend more time together. We need to model healthy mixed gender interaction for our children and the larger societies in which we find ourselves embedded. That's what we're here for, to be examples, to be a realistic alternative to systems that are failing the people. Now, I'm an American, and our system is absolutely failing us. Birth rates are plummeting. The sex industry is booming. We've got men caught up in red pill, black pill, MGTOW, incel bullshit. There is so much wrong with what is happening between men and women, and we need to see a healthy alternative. And it has to be something that makes sense, that feels practical and doable and accessible. But we've gone so far into gender segregation as a sort of ingrained social ethic that we've left practicality and accessibility so far behind. We are firmly ensconced in the absurd. Segregated seating at social events, segregated buffet lines at the fundraising dinner, women completely walled off in houses of worship. What is that? I mean, the only mixed gender gatherings officially sanctioned by establishment Islam are these horribly awkward singles events. Like, who wants to be a part of that? Anybody that goes does so out of duress and desperation. Where in any of that is an opportunity for our children to learn how to behave with grace and respect and accommodation with members of the opposite sex? All we're telling them through this behavior is that we don't engage with the other. We ignore them. We shun them. Unless we want to absolutely ruin our reputation. So now we're back to fear, except that it's worse because we're bringing our kids along for the ride. Finally, I'm not sure that gender segregation was the norm amongst the earliest Muslims, at least not in the way that it's enforced today. Again, I'm not an authority, but a superficial dive into both pre-Islamic and early Islamic histories suggests that while there was absolutely robust gendered domains for men and women, there was also a significant level of mobility and agency for both. The particular brand of gendered segregation that we enjoy today seems to have evolved over time, becoming really entrenched during the dynastic caliphates of the medieval period. Royal harems were the norm, bestowing a kind of sophistication and nobility to a more cloistered, encompassing type of gendered segregation. And that was always sort of baked into the proposition. Honorable people did not mix freely in the ways of the uncouth riffraff. So between that and politics and the misogyny that comes out of fear and ignorance, a byproduct, by the way, of social estrangement from women, things just got a lot worse. I suspect we are a long way from home, a long way from the day-to-day reality of those men and women who gathered in close quarters around the Prophet to hear him teach. May the peace and blessings of God be upon him. They saw each other as sister and brother first, not as some liability that was going to take the other off of the straight path. Well, in any case, times have changed. Education and social mobility, these are the things that are the hallmarks of privilege. And as a matter of belief, we understand Islam to be a template relevant to all times and all places. Are we sinful to revisit our ideas about gender segregation, to weigh the social costs against any perceived benefit? We need men and women to spend more time together so that we can appreciate one another in our totality, and so that our children and greater society can bear witness to the excellence of a healthy mixed gender engagement, so that we can more closely emulate the day-to-day realities of the earliest community of believers. And the best way to do that? Outside, with us. We've got a co-ed backpacking trip coming up. January 17th and 18th, Point Reyes, Central California. Men and women, 16 and up. All food and gear provided. Come on out. Hang out with your brothers and sisters for the weekend and see what comes of it.